I don't care what the person did. Put in the number you're supposed to put. Come on. You can solve some problems. A lot of the questions you ask sometimes can be solved if you think a bit. Your job is to put it on that number. You do your job. You put it on the number. I'll figure out the problem later. Gosh, there's so many things open. It's ridiculous. So this one gets deleted. That one. Not time to talk about how you did in the quiz right now. So, in the 50s, this scientist thought it would be kind of cool to have a computer program that could be designed to control machines that could be sent to Mars, where the machines would mine the surface of Mars for the iron and the minerals that it needed. And then the machines would produce other machines that will produce other machines that produce other machines that eventually will terraform Mars for humans. And then humans can go there and live there. So instead of us going there, doing all the work, we will send machines with programs, very complex programs, right, that could then be used to generate other machines, which could generate other machines and other machines that eventually do the job for you. Does that make, you know what I'm talking about? Now, what we're going to talk about today in next class, yes? Hi. No problem. What we're going to talk about, are you going to talk to me about something?
Yeah, but go ahead.
No, I'm not going to stop anytime soon, so what's going on? Yes.
We're trying to add you into today's.
Okay.
I don't know if you got any emails or anything. Check. I don't know if it works.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's fine.
Well, yes, yours.
Yeah. See, I never got the email, and I guess I misplaced it, but it's okay. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
Just check and let me know.
Thank you so much. Now, this sounds like a crazy idea, but not so much. Think about it, because then we wouldn't have to do all the work. The machines would do the work for us. The tricky part is programming a machine that can build itself, but also do other things, right? Like terraform the planet. So we're talking about a very complex program, right? And then that's the idea he had. Another scientist said, okay, well, I don't know if that's possible, but I'm going to do something a little easier than that. I just want to see if it's possible with a certain set of rules, like he's suggesting, for patterns to arise out of these rules. Because let's think about why this makes sense. Because that's what life is. Life are machines, cells, which make copies of themselves, And as they make copies of themselves, they improve with the previous copy in the sense that they match the environment a little bit better. Are you with me what I'm saying? And then as they keep doing this, they also do other things, like build things, like, are you with me? Proteins that actually do functions. So, in a way, without actually saying it, what the scientists really wanted to do is create a living system, right? Because that's what life is. It's a self-replicating, functional system that tries to fight disorder and produce more order at the cost of the energy of the environment and the materials of the environment. So that's what we have to create, right? So that's what, at the end of this topic, over the next couple classes, I have to try to explain how the scientists say that could possibly have arisen by itself, right? So that evolution is hard to deny. It's so much evidence that it just happens. And evolution is about something that's different from origin of life. Origin of life is how life started. Evolution is how life progresses through time because of the 5 mechanisms of macroevolution that we talked about and the macroevolution steps that we talked about last class. Are you with me? That's different from origin, though. Origin is how life started. And a lot of people that have no problem with evolution will have problems with the origin of life because they'll say, no, but you need a designer. You need someone to start. It's too complex. Life cannot have. So what I'm going to present to you today is a view that shows you that you do not need some sort of supernatural explanation for the origin of life. And most people that are against this don't actually understand it again, like evolution. But like evolution, this is not a theory. What is a theory again? Not proven,
Oh, no.
Hypothesis based on
The best that we have.
It's not really a hypothesis at all.
The best that you have.
Something
The
based
best
on
that you have, based on a lot of evidence, very good. All right? But don't say it's a hypothesis. It is actually a series of hypotheses that have been tested a many times, a body of evidence collected. This has some logic, some evidence behind it, but it's not something that, even in biology, we call it a theory, because there's not significant evidence to show that this is what happened. Are you with me? I'm saying? But what it is a hypothesis. Now, unlike creationism, which can't be tested, this is a hypothesis. So this is the difference. Creationism is not a hypothesis. You know why it's not a hypothesis? Because a hypothesis needs to be what? Tested. You can't test that. You cannot test creationism. It's impossible to test it. It's impossible to collect evidence on it because it's about a supernatural being that you cannot perhaps see or touch or control with your senses, right? Or with any kind of technology that you can possibly design. So because of that, by definition, it's untestable. So by definition, not science, not a hypothesis. Are you with me? So it's oxymoron to say creation science. That doesn't make sense because science is in the realm of natural world of testable things. And it doesn't make sense to talk about that. You can still believe in it, but it's not science. Science is not about belief, right? So what does science provide us? Hypotheses, which have still, a lot of them have to be tested, but there is a lot of evidence to talk about. But before I can introduce, by the way, if you prove this wrong, do you say evolution is wrong necessarily? No. It's like saying that it's not going to rain tomorrow because sorry, that's a bad example. It's like saying the gravity is wrong, therefore magnets don't work correctly. Magnets not about gravity. It's about electromagnetism. Are you following what I'm trying to say? Two different things. So you disprove one. However, evolution kind of hints at abiogenesis. Because if things come from the same common ancestor, right? Eventually you keep going back, and what do you get? A root for the tree of life. An original life form. And that's why, even though evolution is not about abiogenesis, it kind of hints at abiogenesis. Does that make sense? Right? So let me talk about then this. But before I talk about it, go back to those scientists. So the first scientists were trying to talk about, and he wrote a whole book about it. Can we generate a computer program that can make machines, that can make program themselves, whatever. He came up with all these complex algorithms and whatever. The guy was fascinated by that work, and he tried to say something simpler that's based on the same idea, but much simpler. So he invented, it's a mathematician. So he invented this cool computer program. This is on the 80s. Okay, it's called, if you're interested in it, I'll sell you so you can watch the video in more detail. But this is called the Game of Life. It was invented by a mathematician called Conway, right? And he's very famous for it. He did other things too. He worked on game theory and a lot of different things. But this is showing you that
what's more important,
you can create order from chaos as long as you have certain rules.
Want to steal the
So what we got over here is this, right? It's all about automation, all right? Automation, which is the whole thing the guy was talking about, right? An automated machine that remember I told you about it again, what is life? A self-replicating thing that changes with time to match its environment and has other functions, such as producing proteins in this case of life, right? It's a functional, self-replicating, self-sustaining, entropy-fighting system, which does so at the expense of energy and materials from the environment. So that's pretty much what life is. So he's trying to talk about creating that. Now, the way that he created this is a basic, simple little rule system, right? I'm going to show you kind of how it works. So I'm going to skip the rules too much because I don't have enough time to cover this by the video. If you're interested, you're going to post it on Sally. You can watch it slowly and understand what the video is about and what the rules are all about. But anyways, if you put here a cell, a filled-in cell like that, which is going to be white instead of black on the pictures you're going to see in a second, means it's alive, right? Now, if it's alive with no living neighbors, it dies, right? So it's an infinite grid system, like you see over there, of these cells, right? It's an infinite grid system, and it's possible to be alive or dead. So let's see what the next thing. You already clear on that? What I said? Mm-hmm. The next thing, the rule, so black is filled in is alive, not dead. So every cell interacts with its 8 neighboring cells. Notice there's 8 neighboring cells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Horizontally, vertically, and diagonally, and adjacent to each other. One generation at a time. Okay? And in each generation, the following rules or transitions have to be obeyed. Now remember, this is a game that he designed. He invented this, right? But any living cell with fewer than 2 living neighbors dies because it's of a population. So they can't really reproduce correctly, so it dies alone and it's sad. So if you have less than 2 living, this one would have died, for example. Are you with me, I'm saying? Second rule, any living cell with more than 3 living neighbors dies from overcrowding. Right? Too many people. So more than 3. So 3 is fine, 4 is too much. Now, so if it's by itself, dies of loneliness. If it's 2 neighbors, fine. If it's 3 neighbors, fine. Right? 4 neighbors, overcrowding. You're going to die next generation. You know what I'm trying to say? So for example, this one had this one, and this one filled in. Because it has 4 living neighbors, that one would have died. But the same will apply to that one, because so let's say you do it this way. Right? So that means that one has 4 living neighbors. So the next turn, it will be dead. Right? That one has 4 living neighbors. It will be dead. But that one stays alive because it only has 3 living neighbors. And that one only has 2 living neighbors, so it stays alive too. You follow what I'm trying to say how it works? If you have at least 2 living neighbors, the cells around you come to life. So there's rules. Forget the rules for now. I don't have to understand the game per se. What I want you to understand is this. There's rules. And it's actually 5 rules. He's going to finish one more. So any dead cell, 3 living neighbors become a living cell as if by reproduction. So let's see actually what happens when you wrap this run. Now, the thing is that this is no one is designing these outcomes, which are about to happen. The game was designed. The rules were designed. Are you with me what I'm trying to say? So there was a design for the game. So like the game itself, the rules of the game are designed. But the result of the game is not designed. So what he does is every game, to start with, some random cells are on at the beginning, and he presses play. And then the rules just set in place, and then things happen. So there's a random beginning, with me on this game, and then a set of rules. So make sure you understand this. So we have a random beginning. This has nothing to do with life, by the way, in a way. This is just a computer program. Okay? For now. I'm going to tie it to life in a second. But for now, it's just a computer program. With a random beginning, right? But then rules to be followed after that. Right? Now, we also remember that this game was designed. But that the outcome, the game was designed. But the outcome of this game, what comes out of it, all right, is not designed. No one tried to make these things happen. They just happen because of a random beginning and a set of design rules. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, so this is just showing you that from chaotic beginnings, patterns are possible without any explanation. What it is, but it seems to be like some sort of gun shooting things. Now, he wasn't trying to make this happen, it just randomly happened based on the rules. Are you with me? Now, I'm going to explain on something else. For every game that does something interesting like this, if he starts another one with another random beginning and presses play, 90% of the games just kind of like, and then something stops and nothing interesting happens. Are you with me what I'm trying to say? But like 10% of the games, once in a while, something interesting, like a pattern arises. Are you with me? Now, what is it? What is the meaning of this pattern? No meaning for me. They're just shooting at each other and cancel each other out. But that's not the point. The point is there's a pattern that no one designed. It just happened. Unlike a computer game, a program that you want to make sure this happened, so you write code, are you with me, and make sure that this is happening. This is not, no one wrote the code for this. This is just happening because it happened, based on the 4 rules and the random start. Are you with me? There's no code writing for this. It's just happened randomly because of the actual rules. Certainly, the rest of the video is going to show you how more and more complex systems can be generated depending on the beginnings. Again, no one wrote the code for this. A random beginning that you press play with the rules, and this is happening. No one wrote the code for it. Are you with me? No one made this happen. It's not computer animation. It's just a random game that's playing. But it's one out of a million games where most of the games nothing happens. Are you with me? But this doesn't seem to have a lot of meaning, right? I mean, there's nothing being done or any purpose. It just seems like a little bunch of moving little ants, perhaps. I don't know what they're doing. But let me ask you an interesting question. You arrive from outer space and look at a bunch of ants. What are they doing? But if you really stay there and watch it for a while, they bring food, they come back to bring food in, and then more of them come out, more than food in. If you really look at it, it's just like an organic system of self-replication and doing the same thing over and over again. How is that different from this? Just food for thought. Okay? Little ants doing this job. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. Right? Now, meaning, you can't get meaning out of it, right? Certainly you can't have letters or words or numbers arise chaotically from chaos like this, right? More and more complex patterns are possible. The Nazis. A destructive process. Random annihilation, random destruction. I don't know. Self-replicating process, repeating process. Doing something, I don't know. It's just random chaotic patterns. That's replicating, repeating is patterns. Another repeating pattern. They're dancing. It's art, music, or something. I don't know. If those were notes, maybe you'll be singing. Oh shit! Golly! Golly! Numbers. Maybe it's trying to tell us something. A destructive process that constructs something else. Now, I want you, this goes over a lot of people's heads, so I'm trying to explain once again what you're actually watching. No one animated this. No one planned this, these patterns that you're seeing. These patterns were random beginnings of the game. So the guy says, like, I'm going to leave this one alive, 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 play. Are you with me? Random beginnings and then a set of rules, once in a while, create actual patterns. Now, numbers, letters, repeating patterns. Music, a set of repeating patterns. Intelligence, conversation, text, repeating patterns. Everything that you think is amazing about the human race is just patterns. Are you with me what I'm trying to say? Now, what's interesting about, purpose. What's the purpose of these things? They're not doing any, they're not going somewhere or doing anything necessarily with purpose. Well, neither is life. It's just self-replicating. So it seems to be very demotivating because it's like, oh, there's no bigger purpose. No one's actually making the, but in this game, the rules were designed. Are you with me? So, food for thought. If you have sets of rules, specific rules, chemistry, physics, right? Just the way the universe works. That's called the laws of physics. All right? Are you with me? And random beginnings. And a million different tries. Once in a while, patterns. So life is a happy accident. A product of the rules of the universe. It is actually, with the number of trials the universe has, we're talking about galaxies. Billions and billions of galaxies as far as the eye can see. Billions and billions of stars in each galaxy. With thousands of planets. We just scoured, the Kepler Space Telescope started less than 5 years ago. Was launched to find planets in orbiting other stars. In less than 5 years, it found over 500 planets only in our immediate neighborhood. Now, some of them are good candidates for being Earth-like, but the majority of them are very different from the Earth. It doesn't matter. There is an infinity of space in this universe, almost. Not infinity, but there's such a large number. Billions times billions times billions. That if there is a small chance, however small, right, that based on certain physics rules, life could be created, then it's almost a certainty that it would be created. I understand what I'm trying to say. Now, this is where it gets complicated. And I know some of you guys have questions or comments. What are these rules? How could it be created? Is it a possibility? Is it possible? Then biologists, people that are against this, throw some random numbers. It's really random numbers. This is why I like to think about it, by the way. That folder under evolutionary theory, there's a videos about tutorials, there's a folder called Think About It. And he really is good at debunking these myths that people have about evolution and the origin of life. And one of the myths people make is that the probability of life on Earth is so astronomically small, there's more atoms in the entire universe than life being formed by itself. First of all, you pull that number out of your ass. You cannot calculate that. All right? I want to see what's your math for that. How did you calculate that? How did you calculate the probability of life? I don't know a mathematician that would be able to do that. We can't even calculate the number of possible moves in a game of chess in our head, or even with a computer program. There is no computer program that can predict all the moves that you can do in a game of chess after your first move is made. Right? It's just crazy. Imagine calculating the odds of life. Yes, it's incredibly astronomically small. But that's not the point. It's not random. When there are rules, it stops being random. When you put rules, it's not random anymore. And that is what I'm going to talk about. What are these rules? What happened that made life in this planet possible? So in the lecture that you're supposed to have watched, there's 3 different series. The first one talks about the origin of life. The second one talks about types of science research and studies that are associated with the history of life, called natural history topics. And then the third one is talking about the early history of life and the major milestones that life went through in the very beginning. And also we have to talk about human evolution. So there's a lot to talk about in only 3 days. So I'm only going to give you the highlight, the important stuff. If you really want to get in more detail and prepare for the honors test, you really do have to look at the events, lecture notes, at the lecture series to be prepared for it. You can't not just show up to class expecting that, oh, he's going to forgive us from the quiz again because it's an early release day. That's not going to happen. I do not have time to cover this topic in this class. I don't have it. Like, seriously. I will have one more day, 5 minutes, and then another day. And I can't tell you the history of life on this planet and how it started in a day, in a way that you will understand it. That's why the videos are for. That's why we flip. All right? If you started on a bad foot, now you know, more important than ever to come and capitalize on the points that you got so that you don't fall behind. You follow what I'm trying to say? Now, let me talk about the next topic. Next topic is classification, and it starts in about 2 weeks or so. All right? If you look at the calendar, we have about 2 weeks before that starts, something like that. Make sure you start studying for it tonight. If you didn't study for this topic, later you catch up. First, worry about the future. Start taking notes for classification tonight. There's a lecture series, there's videos, there's advanced lecture notes. When you're done with that, worry about what you didn't study for this topic. So that classification is the next topic I'm assigning for homework. Now, there's also this project. Do the 4th, work on it little by little. Don't leave it for last minute, so that you guys can be on a good page. We still have 5 minutes, don't pack. So, let's talk about now the timeline for the 4th. That homework, this one, is due today. All right? Now remember when I talked about required projects. What happens when you don't do a required project or a homework? You get negative points. If you don't have this today, you're also going to get negative points. All right? So we're toughening up a little bit the game here. All right. So let's start with a bit of background stuff. I want to make sure that I address the questions from the guided lecture questions. Remember, these are important because if you review these, it helps you for the test. We'll do as much as we can, even though we only have a few minutes left. Every second counts. Review. Got lecture questions. Origin, history of life. Where are you? Okay, so there's a lot of simple multiple choice questions here, by the way, that go into this topic. But I'm worried about these pre-response questions here at the end. So let's do that. Why is evolution a theory and a biogenesis hypothesis? All right, so let's think about that. I already answered it, so it should be easy for us to do it. That, Brian, why is evolution a theory? Why do we call it a theory? Because it's backed up by evidence, right? There's a lot of research done on it. So why is abiogenesis a hypothesis, Mariana? I just said it today earlier. Not really sure, right? There's no evidence, conclusive evidence, to say this is how it happens. So we call it a hypothesis. Okay? There's a second question. Why aren't they about the same thing at all? So we already talked about that. So Joshua, why aren't they about the same thing? One is about what? What is evolution about? How life what?
Life progresses.
How life progresses or changes. What is abiogenesis about? So if one is wrong, does that make the other one wrong? No. Okay. What about the theory of evolution suggests that life came from an original life form? I talked about this already. Even though evolution is not about abiogenesis, it's like hinted by evolution because of what? A common descent, right? Common ancestry suggests that, well, if these two things come from two things and they come from two things, eventually it all comes from one thing. So descent with modification and common ancestry is the answer for this question. All right, it suggests that life came from the same life form. All right, so let's talk about some hypotheses for the origin of life. I only have time for a couple. So let's talk about panspermia. Before we can talk about the origin of life, we're going to talk about how the building blocks got here. Because the thing about life is it's built of things. For example, and this is going to show up on the test, proteins is what you are. DNA is like the code for what you are. The template, the blueprint. But what you actually are built of is proteins. Are you with me? But proteins are these enormous molecules. It's like the building. But is the building made of smaller things? Yes. Bricks, mortar. Are you with me what I'm trying to say? Those bricks of proteins are called amino acids. But here's a problem. Before you can have life, you have to have proteins. Yes? Because that's what life is built of. Right? But today, proteins are built off the template. The DNA tells them how to build it. With a complex machinery and everything. Right? Not only that, but it's built of building blocks, amino acids, which are built by life. So life built today, the building blocks, which are used to build the life. So see, it becomes a chicken or the egg kind of problem, doesn't it? How do you build life without building the building blocks for life, which are usually built by life? Did you understand what I said there? Okay. Okay. DNA has a template. Today, proteins are built based on the template that's on the DNA. Right? Using building blocks called amino acids. But those building blocks themselves are produced by living forms, like the producers, plants. So the building blocks of life, to make proteins, which is what life is really built of, first of all, you have to have a template for that. You have to have the DNA. But you're talking about creating a protein with building blocks which are not even there without a template. So you see, it becomes a problem. But here's the problem that I'm going to feed you guys and make you think about before I see you next class. Life, as it started, is not the same thing as life as it is today. Life has had almost 2.5 billion years to evolve to where it is today. The life we're going to start with is much, much simpler. We don't need this complexity that exists today in life. So we're talking about creating a very simple self-replicating molecule protected by a soap bubble. Next class, I'll talk about how that happened and also walk you through the early stages of the history of life. Guys, if you stay on this quiz, okay, and if you did not bring the homework, right? By the way, I'm accepting the homework late. But if you failed the quiz, I'm always here after school. Come and do extra points. That's how it works. Now you have a 100-point debt. Pay for it. Yes. Sure. I'll take the homework late. It's just that when you go in my late pile, you run the risk of never being graded. Now, since we're in the beginning of the quarter, it's not that big of a deal. I'll get to it. Are you with me? Don't make the habit of being my late pile. You can finish. It's okay. I'll grade it. I'll grade it. Just make sure that you turn it in on time next time. Turn it in and get out of here, guys. If you did bad on the quiz or forgot the homework, make up the points. Lunch after school. I'm always here. Always an hour. Well, today I actually have a parent meeting and then in professional development, so I'm not going to be here. But every other day, I'm here an hour a day, every day. An hour a day, every day.
Wait, so I can do it today.